Hi, everybody. I'm sitting here with James and Corey from Cotton, and we're going to try to hit some of your questions that I received yesterday first. And I'll put this on a YouTube video so that potentially we can shorten our Zoom meeting tomorrow. So I'm going to read the questions, and these gentlemen are going to do their best to answer it. So the first question is, I'd really like to get the furniture out and cleaned. Sounds like they may clean it there, and then could I get it out? I like the guy's number when you can send it, and the assessment has been shared. Thanks. So go ahead, James, if you want to talk.
Yeah. So what we're actually being contracted to do is the structure, right? We're here. We definitely want to protect all of your belongings, but we won't do any straight cleaning of contents on here. Now we can discuss that. That would be a side contract for the contents
between the individual.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Yes, if you want to have another company come out and actually remove your contents and do some cleaning and storage of those items, it's obviously your stuff. So we'll work with you. I'm working for you guys, so you can give me direction on that.
And the answer to the next question is their numbers. We'll provide that after we get going. We don't want to inundate them with individual questions, so that information will be coming. So the next question is, it says, one question I have is with the moisture assessment, did they insert a device into every wall they saw moisture intrusion? Like in our unit, there were several areas where water intruded. Did they check all the walls or only where they could see damage? I guess I am wondering at how thorough the check was in the unit.
Yes, I understand the concerns on that question. So let me it's going to be kind of a little bit of a long answer, so I apologize. We use two separate pieces of equipment when we're doing moisture mapping. The first one that we utilize is thermal imaging, and what that does is it gives me some differentials and temperatures on the surface temperature of drywall. Where water is, it'll show cooler. Once we get those areas identified, then we actually take the penetrating meter, which gives me a numeric value of what the moisture is in the wall, 0 to 100. And yes, we will go to every single wall to check to make sure that those readings are calculated, listed, and that is really what the moisture map is built off of. So any numeric value you see on your particular unit's moisture map, that is coming from the penetrating meter.
Okay. James, I understand that the moisture maps are based on what I would say first pass assessments, and will you be doing what happens if we go forward?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And yes, so this is a first pass, kind of gives me a general idea of the scope of work on the entire complex. When we go into your individual units, what we're going to do is we will do a reassessment. We'll make sure that we go through, again, with the devices I've already discussed. We'll check all walls, all fixtures, all flooring, everything over again to make sure that what we are finding matches up to what the moisture mapping is showing. Any deviations from that, like if I find a wall that maybe wasn't on the moisture map, I'll reach out to the individual ownership or owner of that condo and let them know this is what I've found and discuss that process.
Okay, thanks. Another question is, another question I have is the structural engineer King's Crown hired to come in to do a final inspection. Did he finish his assessment? I can answer that because I spoke to Kerry yesterday, and Kerry has placed a contract or is on the verge of signing a contract for that structural engineer, so that will be forthcoming rather quickly. Next question for Cotton is very impressive. I appreciate all the interviews. So just seeking your impressions as we wait to see if the HOA board hires Cotton for remediation, or should we go ahead and hire our own contractors to remediate drywall? And my answer would be that you should wait, and I think we're on the verge of potentially hiring Cotton to do it, and if they would provide the services. It's my understanding that it would be paid for by the King's Crown's insurers, but we can talk more about that during the Zoom meeting tomorrow. Next question is, until an HOA decision is made, is it your impression that Cotton would cut drywall, also remove damaged ceilings, baseboard? Did he say that they also tested lower parts of cabinets in the kitchen, bath, and closets? I ask about cabinets because the Wheeler sisters pulled several lower level drawers and the shelves from our cabinet, and they were already moldy.
Yes, yeah. So that, and again, this is it's going to be independently, right? We can't. There's not a blanket answer for this. So independently, we will go into every unit and we'll inspect all building materials inside the units. Cabinetry, flooring, their bath surrounds, tile flooring, all flooring basically will be inspected, and we'll make determinations on an independent basis, and I will relay what we find.
Okay, great. So another question about, do we contact Cotton individually to get their moisture map for our individual unit? No, they were distributed this morning, sent by Cotton, and we distributed those to you. Next question is, thanks Alan, great interviews. My son-in-law owns a restoration company in Wisconsin. He is familiar with Cotton and says they are outstanding. Is our plan to sign with them this week? I think that's a question for Carrie, and maybe we can talk about that tomorrow in the Zoom call. Next question, does King's Crown contract a mitigation firm, or do we do it individually? No, that would be done by King's Crown for your unit, with your permission. Next question, are you going to become a reporter for the Today Show when this is all over?
Yes, I'm trending. I've got a big following now. I think of 100 views, so
Okay.
Very exciting.
All right, next question is, I understand that King's Crown is responsible for the perimeter walls while I am responsible for interior walls. Will Cotton remove interior walls that are affected? Who is responsible to install perimeter walls, interior walls? I think I can answer part of that question, and that is Cotton will remove anything that's in the condo that requires remediation. As far as installation, that's beyond, installation of the drywall, that's beyond the scope of their work. That would be the next stage, and there's going to be a lot of questions about that, and those would be questions more for the Board of King's Crown. Next question is, if my condo was largely or entirely unaffected by the hurricane, will Cotton put a dehumidifier in my condo until the AC returns?
So on the dehumidification and stabilization, basically the way that we wrote our scope of work is that the entirety, the time that we are engaged to the time that we're finished with our work, we will have dehumidification. Hopefully, power is restored during that time period. Pardon me, and we get back on land power as soon as possible, hopefully in the middle of it.
Oh,
if it does not, and or there is some electrical issues with the building, i.e. switchgear are no good, or that would be the big one. If we don't have power, we don't have a way to actually feed the power into the building because of damages. At that point, we can discuss a longer term plan on how we're going to continue to stabilize. But right now, the estimate that I have delivered to you guys is from day 1 to day, I think it was 28, if I'm remembering properly.
Yes,
I will have the buildings stabilized. And again, I want to tell you, it's going to take us it'll take us at least 4 or 5 days to get that equipment into all units and operating, so it is going to take us a little bit of time.
Now, maybe a question for me is, what will we find if we get electricians here and they say the building looks okay, or we can isolate certain electrical systems from some of the more damaged condos? Could you electrify the air conditioning?
Absolutely.
Okay.
100%. And that's ideal situation, right?
Okay.
So if we can get the air conditioners running properly, that's another big issue, right? Because there's been a lot of wind, a lot of damage out here. So we want to make sure that the electricians come through, they do tension testing, they meg out everything, and they go from one circuit to the other on all your switchgear very slowly, methodically. It needs to be a team of electricians, to be honest with you, to do that efficiently. And then once that is established, good green light, then we bring the power up. We definitely do not want to just have shore power come into the building, flip the breakers on, and hope for the best, because
Right.
we have multiple fire issues there, and just general danger for people being on the property at that point.
All right. Next question is, I've heard of the 50% rule. Is King's Crown affected by the 50% rule, in your opinion?
In my opinion, absolutely not. And I'd like to preface that I'm not a engineer by trade or anything like that. I'm just giving you my 15 years of experience in the restoration business, that I don't believe that you're even close to 50% of the value of this property.
Good answer. Okay. Is it your impression that Cottonwood cut drywall also removed damaged ceilings, baseboard? Did he say they also tested lower parts of cabinets in the kitchen, baths, and closets?
Yes, again, we'll fully test everything. There's not going to be any building materials that we're not going to test. The only thing in your condos that we're not going to be testing or cleaning, again, is going to be your contents.
Okay.
So,
and as far as the cutting the drywall, that would be by per unit basis based on what the moisture map shows, and also upon your visual inspection.
yeah. So you're exactly right. Moisture content, number one. Number two would be if we have visible growth. Our kind of the industry standard on visible growth is you go 2 foot beyond that visible growth and 360 degrees around that, just to give us a buffer, for lack of better words, so that we can we're not promoting growth during that.
I actually watched the fellow do it when he was doing one unit, and he was very specific. He went beyond the perimeter of where the moisture was, so he can make sure he got dry. It was dry beyond that.
That's right.
So.
That's right.
Next question is, can my own contractor do the mitigation and remediation? I trust my contractor, but I don't have experience with cotton.
And I understand that question 100%. You don't know us personally, and you haven't worked with us in the past. What I would say to that, and what I would caution on that, is general contractors are not mold remediators, water remediators, experts. We are. If you do not mitigate this properly and you put back new material, that new material will be cross-contaminated with whatever is growing or existing inside that apartment. So I would very, very cautiously do that.
Okay. Next question is, did Cotton test my whole condo for moisture? How do they know the extent of a wet area? I think we probably talked about that.
It goes
already.
back to that moisture meter. That gives us some empirical numbers, basically, that we can assign to what's actually in the walls.
Short answer is yes. The whole carpet.
Yeah, sorry for the long answers.
Next question is, if my carpet was considered moist, can it be saved by dehumidification instead of replacing it?
So here's the true answer to this. Cotton is working for you. Cotton is working for you individually in your units. I cannot tell you have to remove anything, but here is my professional opinion. If your carpet was wet, it's been wet now for a month, and in that time period, any industrial hygienist that deals with indoor air quality would tell you to remove that immediately. Carpet has high traffic, which means high organic material in it, which is an ideal place for mold bacteria to grow. So my professional opinion is, if you've had wet flooring or carpet in your unit, it needs to come out of there.
Okay. Next question is, can Cotton provide references for other similar condos they have successfully treated?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Happy to share references. We're also doing Lee County School on now in Sanibel Elementary.
So they place trust in you for that.
Yes,
That's
sir.
a big job.
Yes, sir.
If Cotton has to remove my possessions, I'm afraid those will get damaged. How does Cotton avoid that? And I just want to preface that as there's everybody has valued possessions. There's some condos that have a lot of artwork, glass artwork, and I think the concern is from everybody. But how do you avoid it damaging?
I mean, ideally, what would happen is you actually have somebody come and remove that material, right? Anything that's in your unit that is precious to you, I don't. There could be a widget on the wall. To me, it looks like a widget, but it may be something that's been passed down for generations and generations. I don't know that. I would like very much for each individual condo owner to collect those items and actually get them off site, period, just from a safety standpoint and from just so that we don't affect anything like that. But as far as moving contents inside the apartments, we're going to do absolutely the minimum amount of content manipulation as possible.
Now, I know a lot of people are familiar with the Wheeler sisters, and I did speak to them this morning, and potentially they would be available to do something like that if you had trust in them as versus coming down yourselves. But we can cross that bridge when we get to it. But that might be an outlet for some of the people who have have trust. I know they've developed a trusting relationship with a lot of our owners, and they're just angels. Next question is, if my okay, we got that. Will my kitchen and bath cabinets need to be removed, or can they be saved?
Yeah, and there's not a blanket answer on that. Unfortunately, there's that is going to be condo by condo. We'll have to make those determinations. I will have those conversations with you prior to us removing anything, so that you understand that is going to happen. But it is literally going to have to be independent condo by condo.
Okay, next question is, I've heard these big national companies get paid by the weight of materials removed and go overboard. Do you have any comment to that?
I've never even heard of that as a standard, so I can't really comment on it, but I can just tell you that absolutely is not what we're here to do. We're here basically to take minimum material out of the condos to make safe for you to rebuild it. And get dry.
Okay, next question is, my walls look fine, but Cotton says they have moisture. Can I just keep them?
Again, I can't tell you what to do inside of your units. I kind of like the statement I had with the carpet earlier.
Right.
This material has been wet for an extended amount of time, and any industrial hygienist would tell you to remove that. So you take that at face value.
Okay. Next question is, if drywall is removed, what about the baseboard and trim around doors?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Those will all be removed as well.
Okay, and will they be tossed, or try to save them, or
they'll be tossed.
They'll be tossed.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next question: who pays for Cotton service, me or King's Crown? I think that's a question for the board, but it's my understanding that everything that Cotton does, and this will be verified by the board, is that everything that Cotton does is going to be covered by King's Crown, and more specifically our insurer. Next question is another question, and I'll just skip over it. About they want to know if they get reimbursed for drywall that they took out already. That's a question for the board of directors of King's Crown. Next question is, one question I would have for Cotton is whether or not they plan to spray dilute bleach on any areas like under flooring or inside drywall to help deter further growth.
Yeah, so we absolutely do not ever use bleach. That is not really a chemical that we use in any kind of defense against microbial growth or bacteria for multiple reasons. But one is bleach is extremely corrosive. You get that on any metal fixtures, including your window sills and items like that. It's too corrosive. So what we do use is a antimicrobial, antifungal solution, and yes, your entire apartment will eventually be wiped down with that. So yes,
a little gentler solution or more professional.
Absolutely, yeah, it's definitely more of a professional industry standard stuff.
Okay, we're down to the last two questions. My question concerns what level of moisture content requires replacement: carpets, walls, cabinets, etc. Should it all be replaced if there is mold/moisture?
The answer is yes. If you have mold contamination on any porous material, and we've had a couple of discussions outside of this interview that, if you have true hardwood material, hardwood can be cleaned. It's you can clean that, you can reseal it, that kind of stuff, but it has to be true hardwood. If it's pressboard, anything like that material has to be removed. We can't clean that properly.
Now, and the next question is kind of related. Can you question whether Cotton tested moisture and mold potential on LVT luxury vinyl tile and porcelain tile floors?
Yes, we definitely have used the thermal imaging. Is going to be more effective on that material. And we will do more of a deep dive into the flooring material. Particularly been asked about tile and a handful of questions. Tile, if it's sealed properly and we're not seeing any kind of moisture in the grouting that is leaching up, and or we're not seeing any tiles physically popping, which they'll remove themselves from the floor. If those two things are not happening, then that can be cleaned and sanitized and left in place.
Okay. I just wanted to add that I know I've looked at the tile in my condo, and it's maybe original or maybe not, but there is for soundproofing, and actually King's Crown requires soundproofing below tile and most flooring. The soundproofing in my unit is cork. It's a cork material. Now there's been a revision to the spec, and Carrie tomorrow can probably speak to that. But there's soundproofing. There should be soundproofing below any hard floors. So does that raise any concerns?
Yes, absolutely. And some other materials that we see that are used in soundproofing is some vinyl material. And obviously, if you get moisture up under that vinyl, it is
Right.
literally going to spread all the way across the floors.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, those are definitely a concern. So the more you guys can tell me about your individual apartments and the construction materials in them prior to us going in and doing any kind of demo, obviously is going to help us out as well.
Okay. So that's all the questions I have. Any parting comments? If not, we'll talk to you tomorrow at that Zoom meeting.
No, guys, I think I'm good. We appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Talk to you later.